the legend. Welcome to the show. Appreciate you coming on.
Glad to be on. Not much
Well,
of a legend,
few.
really, and especially not technically.
Well, that's all right. That's okay. We got it done. We're here. I've been wanting to have you on the show forever, and I'm so glad that we connected. So we're gonna get right into it. I want to start with, and maybe a place that you haven't started in a lot of your podcasts, because I've done a lot of research. I've listened to a lot of your interviews and watched your career over the years. But I want to start with a couple of stories that I thought were really great and interesting from sort of your junior golf, and one is in your college days, and it has to do with your parents and specifically your dad. And I know how much of an
Uh-huh.
influence he was in your life and your career. The first story is about your last visit to the University of Houston before you committed to college, and then the second one is
Yeah.
actually a story about a gold Rolex and your idol, Mr. Nicholas. So, tell me the story about how you sort of made your college decision, and tell the story about the visit to the University of Houston.
So, I was being recruited by most everybody, and I kind of either wanted to go to the University of Houston, and my dad really wanted me to go sentence at home in Shreveport. And so he finally agreed, okay, let's go visit Houston. And Coach Dave Williams at the time, great recruiter, recruited somebody that he really wanted. And go down there and went to a basketball game on Saturday night. And that was back when Elijah Wansler were playing, and it was their
Oh yeah.
basketball team was standing. And that was pretty exciting. That was fun to watch. And Coach Williams told me, he said, hey, in the morning, you and I to the library. And I said, I wasn't really planning on going to the library on this visit. I said, maybe have to go when I'm in school, but not yet. He said, no, there's something I want to show you there. So we went and we're walking around, and a bunch of all the golfers that had ever played there that had been first team All American. And around the room looking at them, and he said, look at that, Hal. We had 42 first team Americans here at the University of Houston. And right there is a spot just for you, number 43. That threw me for a loop. So I got in the
Oh yeah.
car and I said, so he said, what'd you think? And I said, well, I like the school. I like the tradition and everything else. Excuse me. I said, you think anybody will ever remember number 43? My dad immediately picked up on what I was saying. He said, so they've had a lot of All-Americans who'd be number 43, huh? And that's what he said. And I said, he said, no, but they'll remember the first one that ever at Centenary. So I think you need to go to Centenary. And you know what? I'll make sure there's enough money that you'll be able to play in all the tournaments that Houston plays in, which the gentleman's club raised a lot of money, and we were actually able to play in all of them. So,
Yeah, I was wondering like how like the schedules couldn't have been the same. Obviously, sitting there being a smaller school, but I'm sure he wanted you to stay closer to home, huh?
well, he, you know,
Yeah.
like all
Did you want to
parents,
leave?
Jason, and I'm sure you deal with this, keep as much control as they can. And,
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get into that. Definitely have some uh, opinions on all that. So,
Yeah. As far as juniors go.
yes, as far as junior and helicopter parents
Yeah.
and everything else. So,
Yeah.
I think
For sure.
got a little cough right now. Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. Yeah. Little tidbit. I don't know if you read my bio that I sent you. My son played at University of Houston. And just graduated
Oh,
last
we
year.
did.
Played golf there. Yeah, yeah. So we've got some history there.
Yeah. So you were looking the Rolex story. Is that what you were wanting to know about?
Yeah, so you were getting ready to play the USAM, and which was I thought was just this was just an incredible story when I heard it. Um, and as you know, young golfers, as I used to copy you and copy Freddie Couples and copy all these guys that I admired when I was coming up. You know, Jack Nicklaus was your guy, and you tried basically studied every move that he made. So tell the story about the
Yeah.
Rolex in the USAM.
Well, it's my dad didn't want me to turn pro. He wanted me to remain an
That's what I heard.
amateur. He read about Bobby Jones, and he wanted me to try to, play in all the professional tournaments, get in as an amateur. And I didn't see that as a modern day possibility. Basically, it's certainly not modern more, but at that time. And
Sure.
but he was willing to do anything he could to try to convince me that that was a good thing to do. And anyway, I said to my dad, I said, "Go watch the U.S. Amateur," and he said, "Yep." Oh, he said, "How do you think you're going to do?" I said, "I'm going to win it." And he said, "What do you mean you're going to win it?" I said, and I had won every in that year except the Southern Amateur. And I had set it as a goal to win all of those tournaments. And he said, "So you really think you're going to win it?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, what would you like if you won?" I said, "Well," I said, I watched Jack Nicklaus pull his Rolex off all the time before he goes. And I said, "That's a great look." He said, "I tell you what, if you win it, I'll buy it for you." And I said, "Okay." So he come back in a few minutes. "You really think you're going to win this thing, huh?" I said, "I know I'm going to." He said, "Then let's go get it now." I thought he was kidding with me.
That's
And I
crazy. Yeah,
said,
that he would
"Oh,
buy
you're
it for
kidding
you
with
up
me."
front.
Yeah. And I said, "You're kidding with me, right?" And he said, "No." He said, "I'm money where my mouth is." He said, "You think you're going to win it? I'm going to go ahead and buy it for you." He said, "I want you to wear it up there. I want you to remember what you told me." So he did.
That's
And I
incredible.
did wear it up there. And I was fortunate enough to win. And it's all a crazy story, but that's the way my dad was. He was a motivator. He did whatever it took to control the environment as best he could, like
Yeah,
a
I mean,
lot of
yeah,
parents try
what
to
a
do.
year. Yeah, I know. It's like amazing that you seem to have such a good mindset and such a good philosophy just on being real, about what golf can give us and the failures and the adversity that we have to go through, and we talk about that a lot on this podcast. I mean, where do you think that came from your father, or how much did your mother have an influence on that as well?
Well, I had a really sweet mother that that I lost this year, January 3rd. Um,
Oh, I'm sorry.
my dad's still alive. My dad was really hard on me, and expected a lot. And my mother was one that was patting me on the back, saying, "Hey, he really loves you." Uh, okay, I'll take your word for it, Mom. I told my dad one time, I said, I can really tell you love me when I win, but he was always happy. No doubt, he was happy whenever I won, but he was the first one to tell me what I was doing wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't honestly think he knew a lot about it. I mean, he knew a lot about it mentally, but he didn't know physically
Mm-hmm.
anything about a golf swing. Or one of the things that he heard Byron Nelson tell me a long time ago was, "For every person that I see stand too close to it, I see 1,000 standing too far from it." So
Right.
my dad used to tell me after I get to play, and he said, "You're standing too far from it." Well, he heard Mr. Nelson say that. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
oh, man.
Oh my gosh.
It's amazing
Yeah, I
how
was.
smart parents. can get.
I mean, was he a player or like what? How did like what did he do for a job? And like,
No, not he
did
never
he play
was
golf
any
much?
no better than a 12 handicap ever. Played because I played. And he didn't really
Gotcha.
understand uh, the game. One of the great stories about him when I was 15 years old, I was about to break the course record at um, the course that I played at. I was like 8 under, three, 4 holes to go, and I had a par four I could drive and a par two, and a little par three. I ran it about 6 feet by trying to make the putt. It was a little bit downhill putt, and I ran it about 6 feet by, and he run over and knocked the ball off the green. And said, "Come on, we're going." What are you doing?
Oh my
He
gosh.
said, he said, no way you should have done that. Well, I'm trying to make it. And anyway, we got in the car and went. That's how tough he was. The next day I
Oh
shot
my goodness.
and broke the course
Oh my
record.
gosh.
I mean, he used to make me so mad. Some of the things that he would just trying to make his point.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I always wondered about that because I mean, they they have that fine line of being too hard on you, but like and I've heard you talk about it, and I agree with a lot of the stuff that how we're bringing our kids up now is like we're almost trying to shield them from adversity and failure, and it's like you're not going to be a good player if you don't understand how to get through all those failures that I mean golf is set up to fail, right? Like we lose more than we win. So I was
Yeah.
always curious
Well, I
about
can
your
tell
dad
you,
and like how you ever.
yeah, I learned more from my failures than I ever did my successes. The truth is, you celebrate a success and you cry over your failure. You set up and hard. You analyze as much as you can. Where did it go wrong? What did I need to do differently? And that's good, and you should do that because you got to figure out what went wrong. But in
Yeah, absolutely.
in your wins, you much time doing anything about how great you are, and that can be bad if you take up harbor in that.
Absolutely. So what would you say is your I wouldn't say favorite, but like do you have a failure in golf or life that you feel like set you up for later success? And I can give you a couple of things if you have trouble with that one, but any stories come to mind?
Well, the biggest failure that really set me for victory was losing a 6 shot lead at the Anheuser Busch to Calvin P. weeks before I won the PGA.
Hmm.
I didn't think anybody spot 6 shots at that time. I thought there was nobody in the world that could beat me, and Calvin didn't beat me. I beat myself. And
Right.
home and licked my wounds hard, and my dad hadn't planned on going with me. And I said, "Dad, you're with me because I'm winning the PGA. I got to set this straight right now." And I worked really
Hmm.
hard. And at the time, I was working with Jimmy. He flew to Shreveport. We spent 3 days working on things, and went out there and opened with 65. I was playing Trevino and Lanny Watkins. Opened with 65, shot 66 the second day, and I had to lead right after the 60, and held the lead the whole way, and ended up, boyhood idol Jack Nicklaus, and
Yep.
so that terrible failure to that success.
That's awesome. Yeah. The other thing that I was thinking of was when you had a little downturn in your career, you lost your card, I think was 93 ish around that time. And
Yeah.
then you made that comeback, it was comeback player of the year. I was curious to like talk me through. I mean, obviously, it was a tough time in your career, but like, how did you get back up, and what did you do to like get back to
Well,
playing
this
your
is
type of
this is a
golf?
great story. Yeah, this story. Uh, I went through a period in my career where early on, I was a rookie Rookie of the Year my first year, Player of the Year my second year, and I won like 6 times in the first 3 or 4 years. But in people's mind, I was a failure. And they, about it because I wasn't living up to the expectations that they had set for me. They had pegged me with the next Nicholas. And,
That's right.
I didn't play golf for anybody else. I played golf for me. And honestly, I started buying cutting horses and riding cutting horses and played golf on the side, kind of. I had to make money doing it, but my heart wasn't in it. And, I tried to get other people. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
I tried to get other people to take over for me, like Jimmy and Floyd Horgan. Y'all, what's wrong? And I wasn't staying as into it as I've been. And I got to where I couldn't. I started setting the club a little sooner. The club got behind me. I couldn't find a fairway. That particular year that I lost my card, I found I had made 7 cuts, and that's all. And I never will forget this. My dad came out. Las Vegas was the last tournament of the year, and he came out, and we were in the parking lot. And he said, "What are you going to do?" I lost my card, and he said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I'm a top 25 money winner. That's an exemption. I can use that and play next year." And my dad said, "No, I think you need to go to the tour school." He said, if you make it through the tour school, you still have that exemption in your back pocket. And I looked at him and I said, "Nah, if I don't make it next year, I deserve to be out here again. So I'm going to put my back against the wall and I'll do the work myself." And at that point, I take my golf game back over myself. And, this is really a good lesson for everybody. I hope they're listening, all the kids out there and everybody else, because we're living in a world where we're coddled in America. And we want somebody else to do it for us for a couple of reasons, because we don't want to really do the work. Secondly, I want somebody else to blame if I don't do it. And I hope you heard me say that. So, I didn't want anybody else to blame, and I didn't want anybody else sticking their nose in it all the time, because, sometimes it's work. It's feel. It's art. It's not, and we're trying to turn it into science right now. I don't believe it is science. I think it's a lot of art and a little bit of science. A lot of science and a little bit of art. We come one dimension in the United States. We point that rangefinder and we go right at it. So much more to golf than just it's imagination. It's commitment, trust. It's a lot of things. And, once I get started on all that, I can talk for a long time.
No, this is perfect. This is all part of what I want to hear from you, because we're going to talk about the change in the game and the change in the equipment and loss of artistry. But yeah, continue, keep going. You're cooking.
Well, so I was talking to Scotland the other day, and he was watching me in 1979 at Muirfield when I was on the Walker Cup team. And he said, "Hal, I watched you play your whole practice round that day." And he said, "You were throwing down, hitting different shots, seeing how many different ways you could make the ball go somewhere. Nobody anymore." And, it was fun back then. I wanted to see, is there another way to do this? We were trying different shots. And, admittedly, the ball would curve. And I like to make it curve. And, I wanted to make it curve the way I wanted to make it curve. I didn't want it to do on its own, but if it did, that was my fault. I needed to know why it did that. And, we just don't have that more. And, it's one of the reasons why we're a product of our environment. I'm going to go ahead and say this, Jason. I played on 4 Ryder Cup teams. I was captain one time, and we just don't have the imagination in America that they have over there, because our environment says force, and theirs has very little to do with force. And, because we don't do that, we don't even think about it. It's not even part of our game. So
Right.
I think that's why when I designed this latest golf course that I did, no force carry on the golf course, no water on
Love
the
it.
golf course.
Yeah.
It's use your imagination.
I love it. Yeah, you're getting ahead of my notes. I appreciate that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know anything
No,
about
you're
you. I'm just,
good. No. I understand. Like you're perfect. No, it's one of my topics that I want to get your take on. I teach one of my tour players that I teach, William McGirt, that won the 2016 Memorial. He's kind of in his mid 40s right now, and we have that discussion all the time. He's like, we try to get the golf ball to curve, right? So because in our opinion, curve is control, right? When you can control your golf ball and you can curve it, and he gets so mad that the new golf balls just don't curve like the old ones do. It's like, what are some of the shots that you guys used to have to hit that the guys nowadays can't hit?
well, back when I was playing a lot, we thought a draw went further than a fade. So we were all trying to draw the ball, and now everybody's trying to fade the ball. Game when I was playing was Dan Pohl. He hit a fade, but you know,
Mm-hmm.
one of the hardest shots in golf was to hit a wet shot over, like if you laid at Augusta and shot in off one hill lie, tight lie, water in front of you, and you knew if you sucked it back, mud, it went in the water. And if you hit it too far, you'd be dead. You'd be in Deadsville back there.
Sure.
That's the hardest shot. I hated laying up there because I knew how hard the third shot was. And then you put a little bit of wind in your face. You had like a foot area that you could ball. These guys today, they don't know anything about having to hit a knockdown wedge into the wind that's over water and the ball spinning a lot. And then the second, how it would rise on you. You couldn't hardly keep it down
Get that up
because
shoot.
it was spinning.
Mm-hmm.
People don't hit shots like that anymore. Sometimes it was tough when we could do that, but most of the time not.
Yeah. Equipment has a lot to do with it as well. I know with the metal woods, and then now the way drivers are made. The game has changed
So Jason,
a ton.
how many billions of dollars do you think it's the golfing community for the RNA and the USGA to lay down and not be policemen?
Yeah.
And all the clubs up to today's stuff, and new drivers. I ought to be hitting 150 yards if every driver went every year.
Yeah. Yeah. Marketing is another level for everybody. They push the limits. They can't make them any faster. It's like legally. It's
Well,
amazing.
Frank Thomas.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thomas in 2000, I was on the board of and he comes in. He said the ball can't go any further. It can't go any further. Well, how much further did it go after 2000?
That's a lie.
They just didn't know.
Right. Yeah. It's incredible.
Something has to be done.
Yeah,
where will it
obviously, I guess they're going to roll it back. Yeah, I don't know. Mr. Nicholas has been talking about that for years. Having to roll back the ball, but we'll see. I don't know.
Well, the little bit that they're rolling it back won't do much to it so far now.
No, it's crazy.
We were taught the head of our driver was about that big. About that big. You can't miss the sweet spot. You couldn't swing it. They were heavy, and you couldn't swing it that fast. Even you could. And it's just changed.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts on the way the tour has been run, like the last few years, and all the changes that they've made? I mean, I'm seeing both sides of it. With Will trying to hang on to his card, making it to the Champions Tour, but also I teach a bunch of mini tour guys, including my son, that are getting kind of squeezed out with the cards getting smaller, less Corn Ferry cards, fields getting shrunk. I mean, what's your if you want to share your opinion on like the direction the tour is going?
They talked so much about how LIV live was not a good model, wasn't doing this, and all of a sudden we're basically the tour copying what they're doing with all these select events, and it's just I hesitate anything because I don't know what's right or wrong, and if I say something, the model that Liv did, like it was going to work any of the time because a 54-hole tournament that everybody's not finishing on the same. First of all, you've got one less night you got to sleep on the lead if you have the lead, and I can tell you it's much harder to sleep fourth day. And the other thing is, how can you get a true champion if you're one guy's finishing on a two and the other guy's finishing on the hardest hole on the golf course? I mean, it's just not right. And they throw a party out there, what they're doing. And the tour was at least playing a golf tournament, really, a competitive. And the thing is I didn't know they're traveling all around the world all the time. These guys, that's tough on the life, and tough only and everything else, So I didn't think the model was broken for the tour. I thought it was challenged. That's all. And, we wouldn't treat our golf swing. If you were really good, you wouldn't tinker with your golf swing like they're tinkering. And, they're wanting to appeal to the younger audience right now. And I can understand that.
Sure.
But I hate to say this, that pay for everything that goes on out there, sponsorship wise, pro, anything else, are usually the older guys that love the tradition. So it's a tough mix. I don't know how they do it. I'm not sure I'd do it the same way, but I don't have that opportunity.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I don't want to get you in too much trouble for another time.
Yeah.
All right, so we have to talk Ryder Cup, right? So it's right in front of us. It's so cool that we have it. We're recording this before the picks are being made, but this will come out probably slightly after. And being a former Ryder Cup captain, I want to get your take on what do you think Keegan's mindset is? What is he going through? And ultimately, would you pick yourself if you were in his situation? You weren't that much older when you captained the team. You're a few years older, but you're still playing. Yeah, 46 years old. So like you could have still been informed. I mean, Rosie's same age. Like you guys could have been doing it. So give me your thoughts on that. And then I got one more question as far as just how you evaluated the players that you would pick for your captain's picks.
So having played on 4 teams and captain once, my decision for Keegan would be you can affect the Ryder Cup a lot more as a player than you can as a captain. If those guys don't go in there well, you can't out captain them into playing well. Everybody is so individual. I mean, they're a powerhouse within themselves. They're not listening to anybody. They have a team, and if you're not part of their team, they're not going to listen to you. And in my case, Phil went off on a tangent and signed a huge with Callaway and changed everything right before the Ryder Cup. And he didn't care what the rest of the guys thought about the dissension on the, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Most guys are more about themselves, and so if I were Keegan, I'd say somebody else can point whoever he wants to. Got several assistants, and I'm playing, and I don't want any of the responsibility of the captaincy, and affect the outcome of the Ryder Cup that way. And I'll just tell him this:
I mean, I think he's got it.
If he captains and it's not good, guess who they'll hold responsible for that?
Oh, always blame the captain.
Keegan. Always blame the captain.
Exactly right.
So I'm telling you, he's got an opportunity to take himself out of that position. I believe I would.
Yeah. I agree. Any thoughts on captain's picks? Have you paid attention to the guys at all?
Well,
do you go straight off of the numbers? Yeah, I was going to say you probably look at the hot players. Any sleepers?
I'd look at the hottest players. Yeah. I mean, Keegan's. I think he's 11 right now or something like that, and somebody might would owe him, but he's sure playing good. So
I'll give you
Burns
the
played
list
pretty
right
good.
here. Yeah, Burns is 16. So you got JT at 7. You got Murakawa. You got Ben Griffin, Maverick McNeely, Keegan, Brian Harmon. That's your top. That's your 7 through 12. Then you got Novak, Cam Young, which has been kind of a popular pick lately. Cantlay, that played pretty good this week, and then Sam Burns. And then I don't know. It's a tough decision.
Well, personality plays a lot into that too, and I don't know any of those really well enough that I could say, this personality will make. One of if you could find the guys that actually could be cohesive together, whoever they are, whatever they are, I would suggest that. If there's tension in, that's never good.
Yeah. All right. Last question there, and then we'll kind of move on to some other stuff. But I've heard you discuss your thoughts on why do you think the Europeans have been so dominant over the Americans we've led 10 out of the last 14 or something. And obviously, we need this one big because we're at home, and winning on the road is obviously very, very difficult. What's your take on that?
Well, did you see the end of the tournament yesterday?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Fleetwood
Happy
won.
for Tommy, by the way. I was going to bring that up. Yeah.
Did you see how many of those guys standing there waiting on congrats?
Yep. Rosie, all the guys were there.
They're together.
Yep.
Yeah, they're together.
Yeah.
They're a lot. I mean, we're, marriages. We're flying along our own thing. And we're just a product. Probably if we were over there, another American, our friend, basically. That's who we'd have to pal around with, but we have a lot of family. We have an entourage. Now these guys have an entourage of people that go with them. Other players are not necessarily your friend. Yeah. Froze up there. Still with me? We can cut it out. Hopefully get you back. Can you hear me? Yep, I can hear you now. Yeah. You're there for a minute.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah.
Ben Hogan said he didn't like a blind shot because could you hit something you can't see. They don't mind blind shots over there because they know that they have to figure out what they're going to do. They have to commit to doing it and trust that it'll work out. See, Americans don't play golf that way. And that means we're one dimensional and they're multi-dimensional. They know how to play that way. They know how to play the way we play. They're over here all the time. But they also grew up in that other environment.
Yeah, it's like I think I've heard you say that life is not always a good lie, and I think we expect it maybe a little bit more over here, and they're okay with assuming that we're going to get a bad lie and figure out how to dig it out and how to make a
Exactly.
score.
You know,
Yeah, I love it.
life is not always good. I call the zoysia grass the entitlement grass, and I was had this conversation with Lord. He was to the shape that Eastlake was in, zoysia fairways. And I said, so let me ask you a question. Have, has it always been easy in your life? Have you always had it easy? What do you mean? What do you mean? And I said, well, every day's not a good lie. And we've got, I said, you've got a beautiful little girl. I said, she's going to have a gifted life because she's Rory McIlroy's daughter. I said, you don't want her thinking that just expect it, I mean, you want her to learn how to deal with adversity. Why I don't like Zoysia Gray. We don't get a lie all the time. So
That's right.
that's my thoughts.
That's right. I love it. All right, so we would be remiss not to talk about the 2000 Players Championship. I know you're probably tired of talking about it, or maybe it's good to reminisce. But where your famous quote that you've given graciously to golf, be the right club today. I got a couple other questions that maybe you haven't heard as we go through, but kind of take us to that week. Like, how was your game coming into that week? I always love the question when after a player wins, it's like, did you see it coming? Right? Did you see, and usually it's like, now I missed like 5 cuts in a row and then I found something. Was there something that sort of you found coming into that week? And then you can skip obviously to the last round and kind of take us through it. And I have some other questions.
Well, I was playing really good at the time, and I love TPC.
Hmm.
You know, I played pretty well a lot of tie courses because they were always A to point B to point C. And at the time, I was hitting it right where I wanted to hit it most of the time. And so I felt like anybody was really hitting the ball where they wanted could play TPC really well. And, I led that one from start to finish, actually. I opened up and I felt good all week, even going into on night, they were trying to tell me how the great Tiger one could beat him, and I got so disgusted with it. The media was trying to convince me that what I was thinking was insane. And finally, I just said, well, we'll set a man just like me. And I said, this morning, when I said my prayers, I wasn't Tiger Woods. I was praying to God. And he's going to put his pants on just like me. We'll settle this tomorrow. And
That's right.
I've actually said those things in the press room. The world wants you to believe what they want you to believe. And it was me being committed to what I was going to be committed to. So I've been talking on here several times. In order to be great, you must be committed. And you can't let it talk you out of that commitment. I used to tell Freddie, I said, when I put my hand on one club, that's my caddy, Freddie, I said, you're not free to say anything. I'm already committed to that one club. If I put my hand on 2 clubs, that means I'm undecided. You can say something at that point. Choose what you think is right. I hit it just like we're supposed to hit it, and it's wrong. You must take ownership of that. You need to say, hey, boss, I'm sorry. I made a bad decision to get it up and down. Because if you don't take ownership, we can't go to that next shot and leave it back there. We can't carry that shot into the next shot. Something really important everybody needs to hear. And, everybody talks about the simplicity of play shot at a time. It's easy to say that. Most people have no idea what that really means. And the level that it takes not only out of you, but you too. And so,
Well, God God tried to intervene because he brought 3 inches of rain after what, like number 12 on the last day. So you guys had a Monday finish,
yeah,
right? So talk a little bit about how
yep.
that changed the game a little bit as you went to the Monday finish.
Well, Tiger, honestly, to that point, wasn't playing like Tiger Woods. So raining it out and going the next day did two things. It gave him time to regroup. The
Hmm.
thing was it went from a hard, fast golf course to a much longer golf course. And so the hard, fast golf course played more into my hand. The longer golf course was playing into his hands. So 3-shot lead, and I ready when I got to the golf course. I said we got to get to 16 with a 3-shot lead, and if we get to 16 with a 3-shot lead, then we can win the golf tournament. Because I may lay up, and he's probably going to go for the green. He may make eagle, and I may make par. If we got a 3-shot, we still got a 1-shot lead going into 17, and he's 2 holes just like I play him, which is exactly what happened. And
That's what
it
happened.
was.
Yeah.
I'm glad I that way because he made the eagle. It didn't throw me into shock. It threw the crowd. It was like, oh, here comes Tiger. But I had already planned
Yeah.
on that as a possibility. So prepared mentally for that.
Yeah. That's such an important part of what you're saying there to other players. It's like you got to expect the worst, right? It's almost like at that point it's match play. Right, you're playing against him, and like you were setting yourself up so you could take it and go, all right, yeah, there we go, and then let's move on, right?
Yeah, it was, it was an interesting day. I found it funny that here at the Masters, Bryson said that Rory never talked to him all the way around. You know,
Yeah. How much
talk to
did
me.
how much did you and Tiger? Yeah, I was gonna say Tiger's the same way.
I missed on the last 18 was 8, and it pin was back left, and I'm tried to
Yep.
skirt the left edge back left pin and went a bunker and on the other side where I couldn't even stand in the bunker. And that's the best shot I ever hit in my life.
I've heard you
And
talk
I
about
mean,
that. That
Tiger
was crazy.
over there and looked at it. I mean, I watch him mouth it to Stevie, see who caddied for him, and he said he's dead.
Yep.
And I looked at it and I said, if I could just stay level on this and hit it up, I got a chance here. And actually, I hit the very best shot I hit in my life. It comes out and it goes about 12 feet by, but that's literally never again in my life would I dream I could have got it. Ended up making the putt, and we're walking the next tee. Tiger said, that was a hell of a shot. And,
There you go. That's respect.
that's about all it. There wasn't any conversation.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Didn't
Yeah,
need
I
it.
rewatched that shot today. Yeah, and it was just like, I mean, you almost fell on your face hitting it. I mean, it was so good.
Yeah.
Um, then you go to 17, and Tiger almost rinses it, like hits it in the rough, short right, which you can't do, and lucky to get it up and down, and you make par. So talk about the walk over to 18. I thought was really fascinating about the conversation you and Freddie Burns had going to the 18th tee.
Yeah. Well, I had hit 3-wood there all prior to that. Just the fairway was wider, 3-wood. I could hit it down the right center of the fairway. I had it out into the green, but it was a safer play. And Freddie knew that Tiger was going to hit that 2 stinger, and it wasn't going. I couldn't hit my 3-wood his 2 stinger. So the minute I hold out on 18, he'd already hold out, so he was in front of him. And Freddie starts saying, you got to hit driver on 18. You're the best driver in the game. You got to drive it. He just over there. He's Me believing he's wanting
Yeah.
me to do is
Got it.
commit to it. We keep talking about commitment, but it's
Mhm.
a must. You cannot ask everybody the question: how many good shots you hit when you never really committed to a shot? When you had two things on your mind, how many times did you ever hit a real good shot? And especially if it was in pressure on you. So,
Yeah.
I commit to something, and Freddie was not going to let me hit that tee shot unless I commit. I'll tell you another instance. I'm going to go back to 1986. This is a good story. It needs to be told. I had another guy caddying for me, a guy named Gino. We were at Shinnecock. I'm in the last group in 1986. That was the year that he led every major going into the last day. To, I think it's 6 or 7, the par kind of perched up, the wind hard, and I'm in between 6 and a 5 iron. And Gino, I pulled the 6 iron out, and Gino could tell that I wasn't 100% committed to that shot. So I'm trying to get ready to play that shot. I'm standing behind it. He walks over, sets the bag in front of the ball between me and the hole. And he said, put that club back in the bag, and the next time you pull it out, believe it.
I love
So
it.
I put the club back in. He pulled it over to the side. I pulled the 6 iron out. It wasn't enough club, but I committed. I buried it underneath the lip of the bunker. So there's something from that too. Oh, I had to go get
Hey.
it down.
Yeah.
I hit it like this from a buried lie. And Gene said, see, you believed in it. You had to get yourself out of that trap. So, you know, it's just make a decision and commit to it.
Yeah. I always tell my players, hope is not a plan. It's just like I'd rather have my player commit to something and hit the wrong club and make a good swing than the opposite.
So you can go where you pull the wrong club, but you committed to a good shot. You can go there. That's what I was trying to say on that.
Hmm.
I mean, it obviously was right, but I committed to it.
Yeah.
Get it through to the end now. I hit it the way I wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So here's a question that you may not have been asked about the second shot into 18, right? 6 iron, 184, pins like back left, Tiger's like off the back of the green to the right. So like you don't have to stuff it. Were you aiming at the flag or did you pull it?
No, I was aimed at the middle of the green, but here's the beautiful. It was actually
That's
in the middle of the green. It was in the back. It looked like it's in the back left, but
I
it's in the
mean,
back
yeah, kind
center.
of on TV it looked like it was yeah, but yeah, okay.
So
So was that
I was
a
probably
little
aimed.
draw into the flag there?
I was probably aimed 10 feet right, and
Gotcha.
but I had I was 179 is exactly it was, and
Oh,
I
okay.
had
All
the
right. Nice.
exact perfect yardage. I didn't have to let up on it. I didn't have to hit it too hard. The only way you're going to really pull that shot is if you got to step on it. Right hand player gets his arms fast, he might pull it there. Arms might outrun the body. But had the perfect club.
So good. So good.
Yeah,
Shot of the
it was a good.
shot of the All
So
right. So yeah, go ahead. Keep going.
go ahead.
Yeah,
I
I was gonna
think
say like
it was a little bit of what Tommy felt this weekend. I think the whole world was pulling for Tommy Fleetwood.
yeah,
I think the world was pulling me right there because they had someone to beat. And I'll tell you, when
sure.
we got in the van to go out on Monday morning, I got in first, and Tiger got in by me. And Tiger takes his hands like this and grabs me on the shoulders, and he said, "Man, I've never seen so many red in my life, and they're all pulling for you."
That's great. Oh, that's
So
awesome. Yeah, I haven't heard
anyway,
of that
I
one.
guess
That's a good one.
pretty obvious. which spells to his greatness because there were a lot of tough fans, but there were a lot of guys that were pulling against him too. They didn't want to see him be that good, And uh, Tiger was the best player. I get asked this question a lot, and asked me, but it may be coming uh, because my career is long enough to see Jack play. Jack was still playing at a high. He won 86 Masters, a lot of rounds with Jack, and then I played with a lot with Tiger too. And that I ever saw play the game that did not fear the next shot, no matter, because he net it. And the way to play.
Still there? Froze up. You're froze up a little bit. Come on back. Oh, Lord. There he is. Yeah, Wi-Fi. Your Wi-Fi might be a little glitchy. You good? You hear me?
Yeah, there. I hear you
Yeah.
now. I don't see you, but there you are.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think what you were leading to is like who. The question is who's the best, right? I mean, different errors, but like you were fortunate enough to play with both, and they all had, both were probably similar in some cases and then different in others, right?
Well, what I was really leading to is that this is the way most everybody plays the game. You play into your strengths and away from your weaknesses, and Jack did that as well as anybody. People would call that course management, player management. In Jack's case, his weakest part of his game would have been his pitching the ball or chipping the ball. Tiger didn't have one, really. I mean, he thought he had the next shot no matter where he hit it. And for the most part, did. He ate one, even if he didn't have it, create it.
Absolutely. All right. So, we're running a little bit short on time. I know. Appreciate your time. But I want to get into a little bit of instruction stuff. And I'm always curious about players, especially being a tour player from that standpoint is, talk about your coaches that you had over the years. I know you mentioned, Floyd Horgan, and then Jimmy Ballard's the one. I mean, one of the first books I ever read when I started teaching was, the 7 Common Denominators. Talk a little bit about your time spent with those guys or anybody else, and then go into, if you would, just a little bit of your kind of swing keys or swing feels that you felt made you successful.
Floyd, I'd never seen Jimmy Ballard came along, and he wanted me to go Jimmy Ballard, and he wanted to go because he wanted to know what Jimmy was teaching, basically, because Jimmy was teaching so many good players, tour players. So, and I didn't have an early set. I basically took everything back together. So Jimmy liked that, and I didn't. The club didn't get behind me. I basically believed that the club stayed in front of your body, and your body needed to turn both ways. And that's kind of the way I grew up playing, and that's what we worked on all the time. I got into trouble when I thought I needed to set the club earlier. One of the things that I like about Tommy Fleetwood's swing is the club sets itself. He doesn't set it. And, everything's moving together. And I just always felt like centrifugal force was created, the outer force and the inner force. You tried to maintain that as long as you could. And that's the way I played. I felt like if I set the club or wrist too soon, the club stood a chance of getting behind me. When I let it set and it got behind me, that's when I lost my card. And so
Mm.
we never talked about what I did to get it back. Everybody out. Said, okay, I'm going to get the face a little bit shut. I'm going to club in front of me, and I'm not going to try to set the club early. I'll control the face. I'll know where the ball is going, and I can play golf if I can do that. And that's what I did. And I did it
Stock
myself.
was
I
a
fixed it myself.
little draw with your irons, right? But you like to fade your driver. Is that correct?
Faded my driver a little bit and drew the irons.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of times I hit the ball really straight with my driver. A lot of people used to say, why don't you try to curve it? It just kind of came off straight for the most part. And if it did anything, it would have a fade.
Yeah, but you really covered it
I
great. I know
worked
that's
hard
why
on
you
keeping the
talked
club.
about. Yeah,
I worked hard on keeping the club outside my hands. I never wanted the
yeah. I
club to get
love your
inside
takeaway.
hands.
Yeah,
Yeah, on my takeaway.
yeah,
I mean, if anything,
yeah,
I exaggerated being outside my hands.
yeah,
For
yeah.
all the people that are out there, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but again, to age, our body can't what our arms can do. And especially, I mean, I talk to my friends about this all the time. They're all in a little more distance. Every one of them are. And we all have some
Sure.
age on us. The body doesn't want to work, but it can still be fast.
Yeah,
So 90% of them aim the ball way out to the right, plan on pulling it because the body's slowing down or speed up, If
mm-hmm.
if a young player, if you keep fast, your hips fast, one of the things that I see a lot of people, they overuse their legs. I think the legs are more support than they are for actual a force. If you try to make them the force, I think things get out. And when they get out of sync, it's hard to really play exceptional golf. There's
Yeah. I
some
mean, I think you
events
were
that,
definitely. Yep. I was gonna say. Yeah, you were definitely a little bit more. I mean, I wouldn't say it was new school, but you know how even probably before you even got on tour, a lot of guys had that reverse C look where they drive the
yeah.
legs and have a lot of right side bend and guys were hurting their backs, but you were definitely a lot more stable, which is definitely Jimmy Ballard kind of connection ish, but you shifted off the ball, but then you got back on top of it, which is like you could really keep that ball down and flight it, which I think was a key to your success.
Well, when I was really playing well, I see the wind blowing and think, yes, you
I
know,
bet. Yeah.
if you got that reverse E going on, you blowing and you want to go back to bed.
that's good. That's perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's cool. Um, so I know you've gotten into design a little bit, right? So is that sort of what's keeping you busy now? Course design. I mean, I know you had an academy. Again, we can maybe have a part
Yeah.
two where we talk more about the details of instruction. But I know you've got a new golf course that you want to talk about that you just designed.
Darmore Club. It's
Yeah.
we built a Seth Rayner CB McDonald template golf course. Uh, it turned out really great. It's like I said earlier, there's no water on it. There's no forced carries on it. It's just you know use the ground as much as you can. It's built on
Mm-hmm.
usually played hard and fast, just like a link style golf course over there. And it fairways are pretty wide. It's a second shot golf course. You got to figure out how to use the ground to get the ball to some of the pins. And I'm trying to make people use. We don't have any GPS out there. I want people. I 30 years to when we really fell in love
That's
with the game.
awesome.
And
That's so good.
I want to remind people of where we came from. One of my best friends in the world was Jack, and
Yeah.
he was definitely a believer that golf was art; it wasn't science. And TrackMan is, we can mention this briefly. I taught for 3 years. And unfortunately, we've got a lot of kids that are growing up today that they can actually learn how to play golf with same lie off of AstroTurf with no wind, no odd lie or anything else. Well, let me just rest assured and let everybody know out there, you cannot learn how to play golf like that. You learn how to play golf, not on a driving. You learn how to play golf on a. And it's not always shot that you act. It's not obvious all the time.
Yeah.
And if you just hit the obvious shot, you have a limited arsenal of shots. So I'm encouraging everybody out there to hit the not so obvious shot some of the time when you're practicing, so that maybe when you're in a tournament, when it counts, that you have enough belief in your abilities to actually make the decision to commit to something like that. So, I just I didn't like teaching. TrackMan was designed to teach people how far they actually hit a shot. It's 26 different functions. I don't have to tell you how many different functions it's got. And if you get focused on all that, you'll get confused as you will have no idea what you need to be thinking. And, hopefully the teachers out there, I'm sure you'll pick something that you think they really need to focus on, and that's what you isolate it down to, whether it's a low point or whatever it is. And, but most of the kids, I'm certain you deal with this all the time, they want all the information, a piece of it. I open the door up and I'm hit out in the driving range, and they would, before the ball would hit the ground, they'd be looking at them. And I'm like screaming at them, look at the ball till it hits the ground, because you can't take this track out there with you, and you can, the ball does to what this data says. But I had to remind them all the time of that. I mean, nobody ever really got to the point that they wanted to see what the ball said. It's telling them the same thing.
Love it. Yeah. I mean, that's what I've really stressed, trying to be a better coach as opposed to a better teacher, really in the last 10 to 12 years, as the technology's gotten better and better. We can measure stuff, but you still got to get people on the golf course and teach them how to play the game. And especially our juniors, I think it's super important. Get them out there, put them under pressure, figure out what, put them to the breaking point. Challenge points are huge in my training. So I really appreciate you saying that. All right. So a couple more questions before we wrap up. I know you've been a part of, many companies over the years, and I'm sort of I call myself a part-time putting coach, as I teach a lot of tour players and good golfers just putting. You're associated with Makefield Putters. So can you talk about what makes them different, and give me an idea of why should somebody out there listening test them out and bring in a fitting system that possibly could help their members or their players.
They tried to get me to do this a couple of years ago. A little bit resistant to it because, as you can tell, I've fought a little bit of the technology. I still think that it's largely and your belief system, really. But I finally agreed I want to go up to Philadelphia. Let's see what this is all about. And after going there and seeing the process and seeing the design, they really believe in ground as quick as it can. A lot of putters, the ball comes off the ground and it's skidding, and they took the skid effect out with the old cusp design. They got the weight system going right through the equator of the ball, and then you can move weights around basically from toe to heel, however you move it. And after seeing all this technology and everything, I felt like I needed to give it a better fair shake. I started putting with one. It does get the ball on the ground quicker. It's, you can make it as heavy as you want. I always liked a heavier putter. I could move a heavier, and you get under pressure. Let me tell you what, you don't want a light or something that's waving around, because I can tell you when the real pressure's on, you're nervous. And if it's light,
absolutely,
you don't feel like you can move it. You want to move it. And So anyway, after putting with it for a while, this is the best putter that I've ever seen. So yeah, let's and uh, I'm not sorry. Play a lot anymore, but I putt the ball pretty good when I do play.
There you go. Yeah, that's a good endorsement right there.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
you
Yeah,
know,
I'm looking forward to testing
hardest
them
thing
out.
for hardest thing for a guy like me is, I used to wonder how come all the guys that I worked with on my golf didn't hit any shots in front of me. They, I never Byron Nelson hit any. I never saw Jackie Burke hit any. I never saw, I never saw any of them. Ben Hope, my dad was a member of Shady Oaks and played with me, and I played their equipment and everything. But
Oh
I
man.
know now because the expectation like that is really large, even when they
Yeah.
get old. And I can't
Yeah.
do what I used to do. And more than trying to impress you with that, it hurts me. Can't. I can't even make a
I
decision because
understand.
my mind
Yeah.
still believes I can do what I used to be. I mean, decision process is based on how I used to play. And
Sure.
I spent my whole life trying not to be mediocre, and I'm good at mediocre now.
Dude, that's all right. I mean, you've had a hell of a career, and um, this has been a huge honor for me to like have one of my heroes on the show, and I just can't thank you enough for your time. You got to ask one. You got to answer one more question. Everybody knows what's coming if you've listened to the show. It's very short. So if you had to get a message to the world, billions of people, and put it on a billboard, a gigantic billboard, metaphorically speaking, of course, what would your message be and why?
So are we talking about golf or life?
Either one. You can have two billboards if you want.
Either.
Either one would be great. Yep, life would be great, honestly.
There you are.
Yeah, yeah,
So either, is that what you're saying?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Or you can have two if you want.
So I made the statement the other day that, you know, I spent a lot of time playing golf with Raymond Floyd, and he talked about risk versus reward. And I was a much better player before I started evaluating risk reward. I stepped on the gas a lot more. And this is what I say: nobody remembers who shot 80, and they remembers who finished second. They only remember those guys that make lots of birdies and eagles and win golf tournaments. So I would advise everybody within to step on the gas. And my goal now when I play golf is I'm trying to make, and if I make it more than that, I have the right to pick it up.
There you go. I love it. Any favorite quote or mantra that like as far as just how you live your life that you want to share before we close?
uh,
You can have two billboards because you're a
don't look
legend, future Hall of Famer.
don't look back. Keep trying. Looking back is bad business.
Love it. Love it.
That's all
You're the best, my
I
man.
know.
You're the best.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll
Having me on.
definitely
I
have to do
enjoy
a
it.
part two. Where
Okay.
I've got through about half my notes, so hopefully we can do it again. So I appreciate you
We
and
can do it
we'll
again.
talk soon. All right, my man.
Okay. Thank you.